Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Walter's Wanderings Travel Podcast. And today we're going to be having Lionel Garcia on board with us today. And I do mean literally on board because he is from MSC Cruises, a very large and nice cruise line that sails Caribbean, Mediterranean, and other places. And he's going to talk to us all about it. Just a special incentive, if you mention this edition of the podcast, I will throw on extra onboard credit for you on your next MSC cruise. If you do an interior, we'll make it $25. You do an ocean view, we'll make it $50. You do a balcony, we'll do $75. And if you go for the gusto and go to the special ship within a ship, which Milano is going to talk about, I'll send you $100 of onboard credit. And that'll be nice because you'll be able to use it for any various things that MSC has to offer in their ports of call, etc. So without further ado, Lionel, thank you for hopping on board today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. By the way, I love your background. I think that's so cool that you had that put onto your wall.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The picture that the people watching on a video are going to see, that's actually when my three kids were on their first Disney cruise back in 2012. Now,
that's crazy.
If we were to recreate that picture, they wouldn't look anything like they did then. But that was the first Disney cruise. It's an interesting background story, which I'll fill in with the listeners and viewers another time. But yeah, that was a nice trip.
I love that.
Turned out.
No, that's great. No, I'm happy to be on. Thanks for having me on, Scott. I know I see your videos from time to time, so it's always great when you welcome me on to talk to your listeners. So thanks a lot.
Well, I appreciate that. So let's talk about MSC Cruises. It's I believe, if I'm correct, it's a family-owned company, and I believe it's also European-based. But that doesn't mean that they don't, handle American tourists and American cruisers well, because they do. And I know that they have several ships here based in the U.S. and many more based in Europe. So talk a little bit about the MSC story.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. So MSC is the third largest cruise line and the fastest growing cruise line in the industry right now. We are part of the Mediterranean Shipping Company. MSC stands for Mediterranean Shipping Company, the largest shipping company in the world. And it is actually family owned and operated by the Aponte family. And this family has been running shipping for 300 plus years. It started running goods up and down the coast of Italy. And now we have the largest shipping company in the world and the third largest cruise line and the fastest growing cruise line. We're also the largest privately owned cruise line. So today we actually have 23 ships for sale, 22 ships in the water. We have 5 ships dedicated to the United States. We have a private island in the Bahamas. We're looking at investing in other private destinations around the world. We are completing construction of the largest cruise terminal in the United States in Port Miami. We're looking at, we have also become the cruise line sponsor of Formula One racing, the cruise line sponsor of the New York Knicks, the cruise line sponsor of the Miami Dolphins. We're coming to Galveston in 2025 and even more things. So I don't want to talk it all about now, let you prompt me for other things, but it is really exciting. MSC is making a lot of noise, and it's getting to become really exciting time to be here at this company.
I'm really happy that we have the continued expansion of the brand, and having 5 ships that are dedicated to the U.S. market is certainly not something to be sneezed at, because there are a lot of cruise options out there, and to have 5 MSC cruise options is also very good. And just a side note, when you talk about the fact that the MSC also does cargo, a lot of times people who may not be near a ship port will often see trains with MSC boxcars going by, and it's the same MSC. So it's a very fascinating history that goes back 300 years, long before cruise ships and recreational cruising was a thing. Back 300 years ago, if you went on a ship, you were immigrating somewhere. You weren't going on a cruise to some private island, I assure you.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
So talk a bit about, now I want to focus on a couple of things. First, I want to focus on the fact that there is a ship that's home porting all year long, right from beautiful downtown Brooklyn, New York, and that's the MSC Meraviglia. Talk about that ship. I actually was on it when it made its first soiree into New York some years ago. I can tell you that it's very well appointed. The ship is beautiful. There's lots of wonderful touches that way. There's lots of great nooks and crannies. There's there's great kids program on board. They have a lot of other features, and the fact that it does cruise from New York all year round shows a certain commitment from MSC that, quite frankly, many other cruise lines don't offer.
No, you're very spot on. I have a lot of history in cruise, but very small history within MSC. But since I've been here, I've had the privilege of being on several different ships and different classes of ships, and the Meraviglia is truly my favorite ship that we operate right now that I've had a chance to see. I hate saying that because there's newer ships that I'm sure would like to have that attention, and Lionel's choice. But truly, my favorite so far that I've seen is Meraviglia. I think she shows incredibly well. She has a phenomenal crew who's humming on all cylinders. She's performing super well. Our guest satisfaction scores are very high out of New York. And I think there's also the other plus side about being in New York year round is that we have the ability to do different types of itineraries. So we are doing, as crazy as it sounds, we're doing a 7-night Caribbean cruise that goes to our private island from New York. That's really quick and incredible that we can pull that off. We have a little bit longer. We go up to 11 nights down to the Caribbean and the Bahamas. Then we also are operating a Bermuda program, and that's really nice to have a Bermuda program. And then we are also doing the Canada and New England program, which we're coming to an end here at the end of this month. And that's been really well received just because we've never, I think it was many years ago, the last time MSC did that. So it's just a really great way to showcase some of the beautiful parts of the world and to be able to depart right from New York, and New Yorkers and those on the Eastern Seaboard get a chance to experience the Meraviglia. So my favorite feature of the Meraviglia, number one, I love that she has all of our specialty restaurants on board. There is only one class of ship that has newer restaurants, and that's our newest ship. And she came out in November of last year, the World Europa, but she's going to stay in Europe. We are getting World America, and that's going to be in Miami in April of 25. I'm sure we'll talk about it soon. But Meraviglia has Ola, Tacos, and Cantina. That's my favorite restaurant so far. We have Butcher's Cut. We have our teppanyaki and sushi. And then we also have Ocean K, our seafood restaurant. Those restaurants are phenomenal. That ship has the yacht club. That ship has this gorgeous galleria that we call it the World Galleria, and it spans about 3-4 decks high in the center of the ship with this LED dome.
The LED blew me away when I saw the ship on my tour. That whole LED thing blew me away because it can be programmed to show any number of things. And that whole concourse, it's wide open, unlike other cruise ships where sometimes you'll get to your concourse for shopping and the specialty things like that, and you're kind of bumping into people. It doesn't appear that you'll be bumping into people when you're on that concourse. And the main theater is right at the end of that long concourse, and it's really nice as well. The seats are large. There's lots of leg room for someone my size. I appreciate that. And like I say, there's a lot to recommend as far as what's on board. Now let's talk about this yacht club, because that's the ship within a ship. That's where I'm going to give people $100 on board credit when they book a cruise on MSC. And it doesn't have to necessarily be on the Meraviglia. It can be on any of the other MSC cruise ships. But talk about the yacht club, because I think it's really important to have this kind of concept on a cruise ship.
Agreed. So MSC provides the experience of Yacht Club on 15 of our 23 ships. And most of the ships in the United States, with the exception of two of them, with the exception of a few that are coming in soon, do not have Yacht Club. So if you're interested in Yacht Club, we'll have it. And I hope after I share this with you, you will be interested in Yacht Club. So as Scott mentioned, it is our ship within a ship concept. What does that mean? That means that you will have access, key access only to this space. This is going to be on the top third portion of the ship. It's going to be the top 3 or 4 decks. We won't have any more than about 150 rooms in that space. So you're talking about 300 passengers or less, 24-hour concierge, 24-hour butler service. You're going to have your own restaurant. You're going to have your own lounge. You're going to have your own bar. You're going to have your own pool, your own saunas, or like jacuzzis. You're going to have your own cabanas, your own pool grill. This is going to be your space. You have no reason to ever have to leave the Yacht Club. Now, should you choose to leave Yacht Club because you want to maybe try one of our specialty restaurants, or you want to watch our show, well, guess what? You will be escorted, if you want, by our butler, who will take you to your seats at the show, and there's no line, no wait. Or you'll be escorted to your dinner reservation. No line, no wait, right to your table. You'll be seated. And the best part is at this embarkation, we just got off of a ship last week and got some reviews from some Yacht Club guests. And they loved the fact that, yeah, there was a line waiting and they had Yacht Club. So therefore, they cut right to the front of the line with their butler. Their butler was carrying their luggage for them, and they were able to exit the vessel very quickly. So our guests who are in Yacht Club truly love it. Now, I will mention one thing that makes our Yacht Club, our ship within a ship experience, unique. In addition to it being our most inclusive and exclusive. So that means all your drinks, your tips, your beverage package, your Wi-Fi package, all that's built in. That's included. But we also offer different types of accommodations. So you can book into Yacht Club in an inside. Not that I recommend it inside, but we do have inside accommodations. We have balcony accommodations, and we have different level of suite accommodations as well. So those are all things to keep in mind when you're considering our Yacht Club.
Yeah, the Yacht Club concept is great. There's no doubt. I think a lot of cruise lines are trending towards the ship within a ship concept. I can tell you from previous experience on another cruise line that once you go there, it's very hard to go to a more regular cabin situation. I can say that, but there's a certain value is not really the word I'm looking for, but there's a certain ennui that you get, and because everything's included, including the concierge butler, they can arrange your shore excursions. You'll get priority tender access at tender ports. And there's just so many different additions when you go to a Yacht Club setting, and even if it is an interior cabin, because listen, some people still prefer that. They'll still get the Yacht Club experience, but they'll save some money, and there's no problem with that. I have no issue with that. Plus, maybe they get better sleep because it's dark inside. I know that because I've been in interior cabins. I'm going like, this isn't that horrible, and so there's lots to recommend. Now, looking forward to 2024, and I guess into 2025, what are some of the highlights that you want to feature for us coming up?
I want to point out that we got the ship in New York. That's staying, and that's something to keep in mind, just because she's going to be there for the entire season of 24, and as far as we know as well, into 25. So that's exciting. I would tell you that in 24, one of the biggest we're going to be talking about is the new ship World America coming to Miami, and that ship arrives in April of 2025. She will be doing 2 7-night itineraries, one east, one west. You could even book a 14-night round trip and do both itineraries. And the reason why I bring that up is because this is going to be the first ship MSC has ever built specifically for the U.S. market. What makes MSC different than other cruise lines is that we are a Italian company operating in the market of the United States. when the other cruise lines are American companies operating in the United States and in other markets. So the difference is we are really the number one cruise line of choice for Europeans. They love us out in Italy and they love us throughout the European Union. But it's important to know that this will be MSC's first ever build from scratch ship only for the US. So this ship, World America, will be a purpose-built ship for the US. So we're excited about that. And there's going to be more announcements about her as the year progresses and as we get closer to her arrival. That's going to be the big buzz. The other big buzz is that we're going to have more 3 and 4 night itineraries than we've ever had. And I know that that's not the sexiest itinerary, if you will, but our private island, Ocean Key Marine Reserve, is just spectacular. It's a place like I've never seen before. We only allow 1 ship there per visit, and we allow the ship to actually stay late into the evening or overnight into the next day when you have a stop at Ocean Key. And all of our deployment has a late night or an overnight in Ocean Key when you go to the Caribbean or the Bahamas. So we're going to have more Caribbean deployment and more Bahama deployment than we've ever had. So if you're looking for a quick getaway, please go ahead and call Scott and his team, and they'll be able to set you up and put you on a fantastic journey on MSC.
And here's the other thing to note, and that is for people who have never cruised before and who have trepidation about cruising, to me, a 3 or 4 night, and I just prefer 4 nights because there's the time frame is just longer enough. Instead of say unpacking on Thursday and packing on Saturday on a 3-night cruise, you get that extra day. So I'm a big fan of 4-night cruises for first-time cruisers, and you can combine it because if I'm right, obviously Miami's a port. Are there going to be 3 and 4 nighters from Port Canaveral as well?
From Port Canaveral, yes. So it's Port Canaveral and Miami are 2, 3, and 4.
This is great because you can do what I call a turf and surf vacation, where you spend a few days there in Central Florida. You know what we're talking about, right? And then you make your way over and you go across the beeline. We can set up a transfer to get you on the ship, and you do your 4 nights on the ship, and then we'll get you back to the airport to go home. And it's truly a great way to do a vacation. And the price points for MSC are very competitive, even for the yacht club. So that's something else to remember, that, if you're comparing based on price point and inclusions, the yacht club on a 4-night cruise, it may sound like you're going to be spending a lot, but you might not. It may be less than what you think. And that's very important. Now, let's talk about Europe. I actually did, when I was in Europe this summer, I did see the Europa ship, and what a piece of work that is. Oh my, that's a big ship. It's got a lot of stuff you could see. I obviously didn't go on it, but from seeing it from the other side of a port, I'm going like, man, there's a lot going on there. And you say this America ship is going to be like a sister ship, but built for the American sensibilities. So what are some of the highlights in Europe? Because people can cruise in Europe too, and I did. And it's certainly a great alternative to trying to find a land vacation, because the big key is you only unpack once, and then you get the morsels of places. So if you want to go ahead and revisit places for longer periods, you just put a note in your little phone there or whatever, and we can set you up for a future trip where you can get the more immersive experience.
I love that question. Thanks for teeing it up, Scott. So for MSC, being the fact that we are an Italian company, we dedicate a lot of our inventory and our ships. That's what I mean by inventory. Sorry for using a cruise term, but we use a lot of our ships to go to Europe, and we are in Europe year round, and we are far reaching, right? So we have the East Med, the West Med, we have Northern Europe, we have Southern Europe, we have far out into the Red Sea and the Emirates. And so we have ships positioned all throughout the European continent, if you will. And one of the things that I love that we do in Europe is that we allow for interporting. Interporting gives you, the client, the passenger, to work with Scott, the ability to board in the port of your choice. So you might see a ship starts in Barcelona, ends in Barcelona, but you don't want to board in Barcelona. You prefer to board in France instead because you're wanting to visit some friends in France. Or maybe like me, next summer, I want to take my kids to Paris first because, hey, we're going all the way to Europe. Let's go to Paris first. Well, I'm going to board the ship in Marseille. I'm going to take a train over to Marseille, board the ship in Marseille, and get off the ship 7 days later in Marseille. So I still did my 7-day cruise, but there were people who boarded in Barcelona, and there were people who boarded in Palermo, and there were people who boarded in Rome. And that's the beautiful part about MSC is that on our European deployment, we actually embark and disembark guests in every single port of call. So that gives you, the customer, the advantage to curate and plan the best trip for you, especially when you're out there, to give you that flexibility. Because here, working with Scott's going to be great. He's going to maybe set you up on some land vacation portion first, or maybe a river cruise first, and then you could end with MSC, or start with MSC and end on a river cruise, and or just a combination of whatever works to meet your travel needs and hit the destinations that you were hoping to visit. That we can do that. And that's what I love about what MSC does. And like I said, we have so much of our inventory there that chances are wherever you want to go in Europe, we have a ship somewhere close by that you can hop on.
It's funny you mentioned that, ability to embark basically at any port. Because when I was on my cruise this summer in Malta, there were people getting on board the ship I was on. And there were people getting on board in Naples. There were people getting on board in Livorno. So, and the Greek ports, not so much, but I know that the other ports that weren't Greek, they did have this feature, even on the cruise line I was on, which was not MSC. Don't get mad. Don't get mad.
No, it's okay.
But so there is a lot of flexibility there, as you say. If you want to be in Rome for 3 or 4 days pre-cruise, and the ship doesn't necessarily start and end in Rome, we can still get you the Civitavecchia. That's not a problem. It's a long ride, I can attest, but it's not a problem to do that. And I think that the flexibility is sometimes key, and then to offer that is very helpful to the traveler who wants to, have a different sense of exploration. There's no question about it. Right. Now, are there other places besides the American type market and Europe that MSC covers, or is that it for now?
Oh no, so we actually are bigging. I know it's not a very popular destination at this current moment, but we do have inventory out in the Red Sea area. We have inventory in Asia, so we're in China and Japan. So that's really big as well, and really popular as well. So those are some other destinations that should be considered. And we also go to South America, and we also go to South Africa. Today, actually, MSC with its 22 ships covers over 100 countries and over 250 destinations and 6 continents. So it is. We do have a large breadth of deployment, and it's interesting because sometimes we only think about the ships that we have here in the U.S. as our deployment, but really we are all over the globe.
Everywhere but Antarctica. It takes a special ship to go there, though. So I've seen many of my travel colleagues who have gone to Antarctica, and the types of ships that sail there are just a little different than the MSC model, but that's fine because that just shows that there's something for everyone. So
there is.
So I guess to wrap up, MSC is definitely a great option. 5 ships based in the U.S., 1 coming on board spring of 2025. Again, there's lots of different cruise length options from 3 nights all the way up to 11 and 12 nights. Some cases you can do back-to-back cruises where basically your stuff stays in the cabin. You walk off for 30 minutes or so while the ship clears customs, and you're first back on, and it's a beautiful thing. I've seen that happen. So I know how that works, and lots of options in Europe, all the way from the Northern Lights to the southern Mediterranean. and it's a great thing to have this type of option available. Did we miss anything? Anything you want to add before we say depart our adventure here this morning?
I just want to endorse you, Scott, and then let your viewers and listeners know that you are their value interpreter. Your ultimate goal and your team's goal is to pair up their vacation needs to make the most use of their time and money, which are their most valuable assets. And so you make the most use of their time and money so they spend it wisely and getting everything that they anticipated. And I do think that MSC can fit those needs. And so I really appreciate the viewership, the listenership, and the support from you, Scott. And I hope that they return in kind and support you and give you opportunity to be their value interpreter.
Well, I appreciate that. And again, I want to thank you, Lionel Garcia from MSC Cruises, for being on board this edition of the Walters Wanderings Travel Podcast. Reminder, onboard credit if you book an MSC cruise from $25 to $100 per cabin. We didn't even talk about groups, but yes, group space is always available. If you want to bring a posse of your friends and family with you, we can arrange that too. And there's extra incentives to do that. So there's many, many, many options available. And I'm here to help you sort through that, separate the wheat from the chaff, and make sure that you have the very best vacation experience possible. So everyone take care, have a great day, and we will be on another edition of